the stocking rate in this paddock beforehand was next to nothing. And now that the grasses are starting to get established, the number of stock days in this paddock it'll dramatically increase. It could lift production out of this particular paddock 4 to 5 times. Like some people might have tried ploughing that or deep ripping it. Like to plough that country would have cost $100 an acre. Around $100 an acre. So just by doing the banks, like it's probably 1/100th of the cost. None of it was seeded. All that's come back just from natural grass, so there was no cost in that. Just because it was a bare clay pan, most of the seed just used to blow across it. So having something that held it all up there has made a big difference. Because it'd get the clay pan that they just set and the water runs off, it doesn't penetrate. So even if you've had 350, 400 mil for your summer, the actual clay pan might have only absorbed 10 or 20 of it, whereas now pretty much what's falling on that is being held up and starting to soak in. So even like the first time, maybe half of it got to soak in, the 25 mil of the 50. That's as much as what I'd normally get for a whole year in one fall. The original contour farm drain thing that had the holes knocked into it, and then the one that got put in to stop it going into the creek, the water that's banked up from it's just held a bit too much.
And it didn't come through those openings?
It's run through in places. I think there's just a bit of a deviation in the ground there.
Righto.
From doing the earthworks, we haven't created any further erosion, which has been good too. And then we've done a little bit of ripping between some of the banks just to help soak in some of the barer country, and that worked fairly well too. In some of the black country where it was running off jump ups into the black country, we've done banks to spread the water to stop it, because it was creating eroded channels through the black country. The initial banks took a bit of a hit, but as it came down the hill it spread it out more, and there's a couple of spots the erosion there's actually filled in on its own without any further works, just from the water being slowed down and spread out. Like that's cracking black soil on the other side of the creek, and this is a hard clay pan on this side. Like this sort of clay pan couldn't absorb, it'd be flat out absorbing 25 mil in 4 hours, where the other side could probably absorb 4 inches in an hour, just because of the difference in the soil types. I like to get out after the rain and actually see where that water's going. It's really interesting, especially once a bit of grass starts growing in those barer places. It's surprising how it'll redirect the water from where it initially went before there was no grass. On the opposite side of the road here, we put banks in, and they directed water from one corner of the paddock all the way to the other. But after the grass started growing, it ended up running down a fence line, so it'll need a little bit of changing just to keep it spreading out in the paddock. But beforehand, that water just ran straight into the creek, and now it covers about 2k across a paddock instead. One thing's not going to fit all applications, but how this one's worked, especially here, is it's fitted the bill quite well.